I'm going to say I'm looking for a senior level marketing role, okay, at a FMCG based in London. All right? And I'll just go through this from start to finish. And what I'm going to try to do, okay, if I could do this, is I'm going to try to flick through the different sections so you can see visually where I'm at in the response. Okay? All right? You ready to time?
Sure.
I'm going to I'm going to try to aim for about 3 minutes here. Okay? And this way you can also hear, like, well, how long does 3 minutes sound? Like, what does that feel like to listen to that? All right? All right, so you asked me the question, what are you looking for? Okay? So I'm going to start, so you can start the timer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a brief 3-minute overview of my goals, my accomplishments, and my transitions along the way, and then I'll wrap up by explaining what brings me here today and why I'm interested in this role. So I'll just start off by giving a brief overview. First of all, personally, I'm from the United States, spent most of my life there, moved here to the UK 7 years ago, and professionally I think of my brand marketing history spanning 10 years organized into 3 chapters. First of all, 3 years working in corporate brand marketing, and then 4 years working in the household goods sector in the United States, followed by 3 years here in the UK working in the luxury dessert sector. And so what I'll do is I'll go back and give you a little bit more detail on that, if that's all right. So when I go all the way back to the start of my career, one of my goals was to have a broad, diverse business experience in an entrepreneurial environment. And I was fortunate enough to land at a company in Washington, D.C. called Health Strategies Consultancy. It's a startup consulting firm focused on health policy. I started as an associate and then very quickly got interested and involved in corporate brand marketing. An example of what I did was I led a team to rename the company from Health Strategies Consultancy to Avalere Health, which led to the spin-off of a new syndicated products division, and that generated an additional $1 million of revenue to the business. I then wanted to broaden out my business fundamentals and acumen, so I decided to pursue my MBA at the University of Michigan, where I focused on marketing and entrepreneurship. That served as a great on-ramp to the next chapter of my career, which was focused on FMCG, the fast-moving consumer goods industry in the United States, and the household goods sector at the Clorox Company. And my goal in going to Clorox was to generate a really good understanding of brand marketing fundamentals, like the nuts and bolts of marketing, and also make a contribution to an already established business. And I got a chance to do that, first of all, in the Glad business, which is the company's largest brand, where I learned about brand analytics and brand fundamentals, took that as a foundation, moved into my next role on Liquid Plumber, where I led a cross-functional team to launch the brand's first new product in 3 years, which generated an additional $7 million of turnover to the business. I then went through another transition. I wanted to be closer to my then girlfriend, now wife, who was based here in the UK. So that was one of the motivations. The other was I wanted to move away from household goods to the food industry, which was much more in line with my personal interest. I love food. I moved here to the UK, became senior brand manager at the Goop Puddings Company. And my goal during this chapter in my career was to focus on management, so people management and also campaign management. I got a chance to do both. For example, first of all, at the Goop Puddings Company, I led an external team of 7 agencies to launch the brand's first national ad campaign that delivered record share increase to the business. And then most recently moved on to the global team at Häagen-Dazs at General Mills, where I managed the rollout of a global holiday campaign that was distributed across 80 different countries. So my job was to manage that rollout across the teams, and that generated a record increase in earned media on the business. So that brings me to today. What I'd like to do is to take these 10 years of experience in brand marketing, managing brands, managing people, products, campaigns, and apply them to a senior level role, ideally in London at an FMCG company such as yours. And I'm looking to manage a team that has ambitions for global growth. This role ticked all those boxes, and that's what brings me here today.
3 minutes 14.
3 minutes 14. Okay, so a little bit longer than 3 minutes. Any reactions to that, feedback, positive, negative? What are you thinking as you hear that? Yeah.
Have you ever not been hired for anything?
Okay, so you liked that response. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. All right. So very positive response from the person back there. Any other reactions when you're hearing that? Yeah.
I think this one's easy. Yours is kind of easy because you kind of don't jump ship. Like you kind of all of a sudden it seems like you were progressing through brand management, right? So I think some people here might not be able to bridge that gap so easily.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because and this is actually a really good illustration because those first 3 years when I was in Washington, D.C. working at Health Strategies Consultancy, half of my role was focused on consultancy. So I was literally a policy analyst looking through legislation, making sense of healthcare bills. You notice I didn't talk about that. And it's not because it's not important to me, it's because I don't think it's relevant. So I intentionally left that out. And I think what I said was, I was an analyst, but very quickly got interested and involved with brand marketing campaigns. Corporate brand marketing initiatives. So I pivoted off of that very quickly. One of the difficulties I ran into when I was doing my MBA was trying to explain how consultancy was a natural move, how I was going to explain my move from consultancy into brand marketing. That was my biggest challenge. And so I really tried to focus much more on the brand activity that I got involved with. What percentage of my job was it? It wasn't more than half, I'll say that. So it could be a minority of your role, and you could still talk about it if that helps. But I get that it seems like it's
So
straightforward.
you just highlight the things that are relevant to this particular role, and you just highlight the certain.
Highlight the things that are relevant, highlight the things that you feel are your strengths, the things that you feel are transferable skills, and try to create some sort of a thread that makes it seem, coming here was not part of the plan, okay? I would have never imagined I was gonna move to the UK. I was gonna be at Clorox, I was gonna be promoted, happy over there, fine. This was not, I'm making it sound like I knew exactly what I want to do, but you want to make it seem like that. But at the time, did I? No, I had no idea. I was really terrified. I was actually very worried about my career when I moved over here. I thought I was creating a bit of a disruption to it. So, but you want to make it seem like it was intentional. And they get that you're figuring things out along the way. So this question is not a question about did you have everything figured out and buttoned up every step of the way in your career. They just want to know, can you talk about things in a concise way? Can you give me a narrative on your career? Can you take a very broad question and communicate it in a way that's somewhat structured? That's what the question is about. It goes back to the objective of the question. Yeah.
You'll see on the right-hand side, I've got an outline there. It doesn't exactly follow the same format as the worksheet I've given you, but it's the same concept where I'm putting down the different chapters in my career and highlighting a few of the goals, the roles, and the results along the way. And I'm also timing myself to make sure that I hit roughly 3 minutes. And you'll see in that video, I went a little bit over 3 minutes, and also I probably stumbled here and there. And that's again, because when you're doing this live and you're put on the spot, you're gonna miss a few things along the way. But if you practice, it'll still be a solid response. Now, here's 3 ways I practice, because you've heard me go on and on about practice. When and where can you practice? What's great about practice is that you can do it anytime and anywhere you want, and the more, the better. And I really think doing it in different contexts is really helpful. So one place I practice this is at home. That's probably the easiest place you can do this. And you just sit down and just do one chapter at a time and practice them enough until you can put them all together. One of the things I do most is to practice this response as I'm walking down the street. Now you might think that sounds a little strange, but it's actually very handy. And what I do is I will go through the response, and if I get to a crosswalk, I'll stop. And then when I start walking again, I'll start up again. And the reason why I do that is because when you're going through this response, it's possible that someone will interrupt you. And when they interrupt you, you're going to need to have the ability to kind of find where you were in your response and pick up again. So someone might say, hey, could you just stop for a second? I just love to get into more detail on this particular accomplishment because that's really relevant to this particular role. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Okay, then you shift into giving more detail on that. And then they'll probably say, okay, you keep going. And then you got to be able to kind of find where you left off, pick up again, and then keep going without losing track of where you were. So this starting and stopping technique can be really helpful so that you can have practice getting interrupted at unexpected times during your response and get really good at being able to pick up where you left off. Finally, you got to do this on your way to the interview. I definitely think it's not a good idea to go in cold that morning or that afternoon when you're doing the interview. I would practice this literally 5 to 10 times before you go into your interview so that you know it really, really well and so that you can get your interview off to a really great start. So the final action I would have for you is to practice this until you can deliver it from memory and within 3 minutes. Now, again, you may hit the 3.5 minute or the 4 minute mark, and that's okay as long as you have really structured this response out and as long as you are keeping only the key components in it. But practice this again and again and again. And I really mean it. This is going to make all the difference to the quality of your response. And I really think that it's worth the investment of time. What I'm going to do now is just going to wrap up with a final recap of what we've covered to lock in all this learning.